Well, there are, of course, divisions within the Black community, but we're also seeing right now divisions within the white community as Donald Trump is sending in the secret police. He's got like van loads of, armed military police dragging protesters out of cities in an act that really is reminiscent of a tin pot dictator. He has sent these police after, like in Portland, the mayor was involved. He was at the protest site. These secret police tear gassed the mayor of Portland. There are groups of women, mothers, who made a human shield around the protesters, and these secret police, these jackboots, were tear gassing and pepper spraying these women. Any thoughts on the new dictatorship in America? Any thoughts?
But isn't it interesting that in the 1960s, when this was happening to Black people, that no one saw this as a contradiction of democracy or, an idea that the president was acting as a dictator. Once you start pulling white people off, then it becomes an issue where people are like, wait a minute. But as long as it was Black people and as long as it was people who were deemed criminals, it's only now that you've got this wall of moms standing there going, wait, but not our kids. Hold on.
But we have seen that. We have seen that ongoing throughout this entire thing for years, where, and even in most recent protests, where it's, white people armed with guns storming a Senate, and they get a now. And yet if it was an armed Black militia, there would be a crater right now where that Senate building used to be. And we said previously, I quoted Greg Proops on this podcast before, where this is a lovely time to be in if you've ever wanted to relive 1919, 1929, 1965 all at the same time. And now we can add 1943 to that gamut, where we now have all these people. And to Sharon's point, it is a whole bunch of white people that are being yanked off the street. That suddenly everyone just went blah.
We can't do that.
But what I am heartened by, and we can make fun of a wall of moms all we want, because that just rolls off the tongue stupidly. But the fact that so many people, we were seeing this in the original race riots that were occurring, where white people were using their privilege and leveraging it to create a barrier so that cops couldn't do it. And like we saw footage of cops reaching over them like they're a chain link fence trying to get to a Black person. And that's shocking and horrible. And boy, all you need to do is open up Twitter to find more shit to get angry about how the police are handling this. And to add the secret police to this is just, all this jackbootery is just horrible. But I am heartened to see that even though it's in small increments, the white community is going, we can help this way. And that heartens me. Not to take the steam out of Andrew Moody's segment, I still have mine.
Actually, and I just want to jump in there with 2 points, though. One is the idea of the U.S. as having a long-running democracy. When you look at it, white men didn't get the universal vote until the 1890s. White women, the 1920s. Black people, well, that's open for debate. So for me, it's a question of if you're going to talk about a limited democracy, then I'm on board. 2, if you look at the history of riots and violence against protesters in the U.S., it's almost from the get-go of the creation of the country. The military has been set on protesters. People have died for centuries. They're just not talked about in the history books.
The actual, I just heard this past week on another podcast, that the actual police force is actually younger than the U.S. country itself, and it was actually set up originally to keep people from stealing goods off of ships and to return slaves to their owners.
Slave catchers.
And yeah, slave catchers. And then the police was then used by by different council members to police the area outside of like prostitution and bootlegging and immigration. They were trying to keep a lockdown on those, except for the businesses that were kickback. So if there was a prostitution, if there was a whorehouse that was servicing the council member, they would get a pass. If there was a speakeasy that they always went to, they would get a pass. And so they ran a commission to figure out what they could do about the corruption. And what they did is they retraced all of the precinct lines so that they overlapped council areas, so that it would reduce the political impact that one precinct would have. It would kind of take down the corruption a little bit. But it was at that point that the police forces then became a professional entity, and then further on became more militarized by the, I can't remember the name of the number. It's like the 430 program or something like that, where where the U.S. Armed Forces, when they were, I can't remember the number of the name of the program, but like, we have too many bazookas. Here you go, Montana. And so like, police forces like Ferguson got all this excess militia gear. And when you dress police officers up like soldiers, guess how they're going to behave, right?
They were already behaving like that.
Yeah, I know, but there's a difference, and Andrew, you know this as well. There's a difference between rehearsing in your shorts and a t-shirt and rehearsing your role when you're in full costume.
Can I just say one thing, Todd? Can we not use the word whorehouse?
Sure.
Yeah.
Brothel?
Prostitution or prostitution workers? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what are the roots?
It was more a word of the time, but yes, I understand.
What are the roots of this problem, though, right? I mean, so we started talking about Trump and his use of military and force and protests, and all these things are related, right? And I think that's something that's not discussed enough is that there's this election happening, right? Mm-hmm. And race and police and the appearance of justice and all of these things are being used as tools in this fight against two sort of corporate-backed American parties competing against one another for dominance. And there's so many of us that are being squeezed in the middle, and we're in another country, and yet the decisions that are made in that country affect us so vehemently.